Let's have a look at this TikTok story. This made headlines, what, midweek, guys? The TikTok stuff?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
about
so
that,
let me,
Wednesday.
let me just fire this up on the screen here. So there was a lot of chatter about, and I guess yesterday it was taken off the Hong Kong App Store completely. And if you had the app downloaded in Hong Kong, it's gone. You cannot use it anymore in Hong Kong. So there was a lot of stuff, a lot of chatter about national security and all this kind of stuff. But here's I want to show you guys this image. TikTok's latest transparency report show that it took down 49 million videos for content violators in 2019 to December 2019. Sorry, July. It also received, watch this point, 500 government requests during that time, up from 296 in 2019. It says none of them were from China or Hong Kong. That is a very interesting.
Well, not
point.
only that, but the CEO of TikTok is an American. They
Yeah.
have no
Yes.
databases on Chinese soil. All their databases
Data
and
centers,
such
data centers.
are based in different countries, not in China. So I think this all goes back to, and Glayla is sort of a conspiracy theorist in some things. The Tulsa, Oklahoma Trump rally, where a lot of the younger people in the United States booked a bunch of tickets, and they say that they did a lot of that through TikTok. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. And do you think that the American government is that petty?
Well, you see, Kurt, it's also the Indian government really got into this too. I mean, they've really got a battle with this.
Well, they
company
shut
as well.
TikTok down and 59 other Chinese apps.
Yeah.
56 or
back-
59?
I'm going to go back to Cyrus on this because Cyrus, you and I were talking about TikTok last night, and you have some more stuff you want to talk about with these guys. I'll pull up a graph. How's that graph? Let's have a look at this. This is a revenue from founding date in the billions. And if, for all the viewers that aren't aware of it, maybe you can walk us through what this graph is and what is ByteDance. Maybe explain to everybody what the parent is.
Absolutely. So ByteDance is the parent company that owns TikTok, and TikTok's a very unique social network because unlike other social networks, they actually have two completely different networks. So you have TikTok, which, as we know, is anything outside of China. But then the Chinese version of TikTok, which is called Douyin, that is what operates within China. Now, obviously, China has its own, with 1.4 billion people. That's a very vibrant social system, or social network, I should say. So you have almost two platforms. So just imagine it like two Facebooks. You have a China version and an international version, and it's a bit different than WeChat. WeChat, for instance, you can have a Chinese version and an international version, but you can add each other's WeChat and you can communicate. Now, when you're on TikTok, you cannot find users on Douyin. When you're on Douyin, you cannot find users on TikTok. They're completely separate. In order to download that, for instance, I actually have the Chinese version. I'm on Douyin. I'm active on Douyin. I make videos in Mandarin on Douyin. And what I had to do is actually go to the App Store, change my phone to Chinese, and then I had to relog into the App Store in order to download that. So that's the difference. It owns two very powerful platforms. But this is the reason why we're seeing this. You saw from that graph is just the revenue. Compared to Google, compared to other things. Yep, that's the Chinese version there. So
is that Tinder? Is that Tinder? Alex, come on, buddy, don't show that stuff.
You guys.
But you look at how much. In a few years' time, they already have tremendous amount of revenue. And what's interesting with TikTok and Douyin, how they operate, is that they're actually a bigger competitor more to Google than they are to Facebook. Their key thing is they're not so much a social network where you're connecting and chatting and things like that. You're actually doing it for e-commerce, and you're trying to find products, and they're great with matching consumers with what their interests are. And that's what's really separating that apart. But I think the big issue here is, this is the first time for America that they have had a foreign country control something, right? For many years, you have had, America always dominated, the internet, and everything was coming from the internet. I'll give you an example. If you look at Europe right now, if you go to London, if you go to search in London, you're using Google. If you go to connect, you're using Facebook, social. Those are both American platforms. So really, even in all of Europe, most of Europe is using American platforms. So that's okay for Europe. That's not a big issue now. And obviously that's fine for America. They love having that control. But now all of a sudden you've got a Chinese company that's going into America. They have TikTok, and that's a huge issue for the Americans because for the first time, they don't have that control. And that's where we're seeing, this tension. And I think, when we're looking at what's happened with India's banned, tremendous amount of Chinese apps. It's not so much security, I feel. It's more the fact that they don't have that control. And, and so it's more of a retaliating right now. And I think, and we have to go back as well to know the history. When you look at, Facebook and Google were in China before, about 10 years ago. However, when there was a terrorist attack in Xinjiang, they were basically using Facebook in order to organize these terrorist attacks. Facebook wouldn't release the data. And that's what China said. Look, we don't have control over this. We can't have this. Now we're banning that. That's why those are banned. It's not because, we don't want the Chinese to understand about, let's say Tiananmen Square or
the
whatever.
Cardassians.
Yeah, it's more, we just can't control it. And I think that's what's happening right now. And this is going to be a very interesting theme to continue over the next few years.
Lee.
So, yeah, I do take that on board, but I think that the American thing here is more of they want to stamp down any competition. So if you look at TikTok, it's the first app that's challenged the sort of, dominant Americans. There was a lot of people turning from sort of Instagram and that to TikTok. And I think that if you look at the whole Huawei situation, that's again, it's about competition. It's America, I feel, fears, the rising sort of technology and economy of China because it threatens their dominance in those areas. And I just sort of look at the scenario with Huawei and Google. Well, Google lobbied quite hard not to have the government ban Huawei from using Google, because if you look at American companies, they don't really have much of a foothold. If you look at phone companies, they don't have much of a foothold in India and China anymore. Apple's still a little bit here, but they're losing share pretty quickly. And so if Huawei, which they are developing their own sort of alternative to Google and the Google App Store and the Google Apps, ultimately, because they have such a big market share, i.e. India and China and potentially Europe, they could actually really threaten the dominance of sort of Google Apps and the App Store, sort of more medium to long term. And, so I think Google have sort of tried to point out to the American authorities, look, you're making a big mistake here because you're actually, by doing what you're doing, you're creating a bigger competitor. Huawei are going to get the bit between their teeth and go, yeah, we're not going to let American companies sort of, tell us what to do. They're going to fight back hard, I think.
And I think, Lee, you and I will touch on the Huawei here just before I exit the show.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We'll come back